What up, my freaks? RuinusInsight here with part, I want to say, 17 of my Total War Warhammer 3 Skulltaker Immortal Empires campaign. So as we saw last time, we continue causing havoc on Oath 1, racking up massive amounts of money and then spending it all. We went from around 400,000 gold or favor down to 1,391. It's such a bizarre shift, so we're going to have to get some of that money back because we're losing 5,000 gold per turn, and as buildings get upgraded, well, we'll need more cash. Volnir Dahl and his army of frenzied infantry units did very well, destroying the army of the Wood Elves, though we had to suffer through some desyncs to do it, which was a bit unfortunate, but, well, what can you do? Anyway, Volnir, we are going to pop you into, I was about to say demonic ritual, but no, the only reason that you're suffering attrition right now is because we need money, and the fastest way to get money is for Skulltaker to attack. So, Skulltaker, you're going to head towards Thinna over here. Let's see if we can draw these guys out into a field battle. Granted, we did get a desync with the field battle last episode, but I'm hoping that this one won't desync if Thinna is willing to fight. And she is. Beautiful. And in fact, what we should probably do is not actually kill Athena off and allow her to back off the field so we can then use her to increase our movement range right after. That's the idea anyway. Let's see if we can make it happen. Solid stack. We are below half HP now, generally speaking, with the exception of our single entities, and our numbers of bloodletters continue to dwindle. Considering the amount of missile and melee infantry available to the enemy, it's, well, it might be, at least potentially, somewhat iffy. Go.
I am Khorne's chosen, the murder god's own sacred executioner. Today, his eye is on you. Show him prowess!
Still not tired of that speech? Alright, here we go. Now, since this single little archmage is out here alone, we're gonna probably have to hit her a couple of times with Skulltaker, who will apparently miss his first blow. But then, oh, that was a miscast, I take it, yeah. Hit her a few times and then back off, as Skulltaker's damage is so high that we don't want him accidentally. Yeah, so 3 hits and she'll be dead. So 1 more. There we go, and then we'll just have to back Skulltaker away. She's gonna be terrified and broken anyway, and we'll send one of the doggo units to chase her down while we form up against the main enemy stack. Now, it's a lot of infantry units and a lot of range units, and we do not have a lot of our own at this point in time. So we are going to have to be relatively careful here, or at least be mindful of how we approach in this particular fight. We also do want the enemy to approach us at least a little bit, as obviously we have a limited amount of room until the edge of the map from wherein the enemy spawn, and we will want to be able to chase as many down as possible. As usual, we're going to start the battle by annoying the enemy with the Hellforged Bellowers. I love that skull cannon fire, and the enemy will send its eagle to move towards the bellowers as fast as it can. Unfortunately, only allowing the cannon to fire once into the big old blob of enemies. Skulltaker will move to try to hunt down the eagle, but will miss once again due to... oh, actually, no, it does look like he landed the hit. Well done, buddy. Well done, but the eagle will lift off and Skulltaker has no way to catch it while the rest of the enemy army is already on the approach. Gonna have to keep backing off, as it does look like the eagle will continue hunting those Hellforged Bellowers, and a unit of white lions will attempt to, or war lions rather, will attempt to charge our blob. That's probably just for the purpose of distraction, however, as look at all that range unit firepower into our fragile bloodletters. Gotta get into the fight as fast we can, and we're gonna do so on the various sides of the map. The doggos, led by Karanak on the right flank with, well, about 3/4 of their HP and a lot of their units missing, and then of course Skyla on the left flank with the blood crushers and the blood beasts as well. I'm gonna have to try to tie up as many of the units as we can here. The more range units that aren't firing at us, the better. I can generally say that the Bloodletters should win in melee, even the basic Bloodletters against the Elven forces, as they just don't have enough Phoenix Guard or Swords Masters or anything of that nature to deal with us. Though admittedly, if they should have had sufficient Silver and Guard, they would also be a fair threat in melee. That said, it's the range we really have to be worrying about. So, the Blood Reapers on their motorcycles will move forward, gonna have to try to force those range units to back away. Unfortunately, the enemy also has a decent pile of Lothran Sea Guard, and whereas the doggos can rip regular archers apart with decent effectiveness, the Sea Guard are still going to be a threat to them, especially with their anti-large spears, and there is a sufficient amount of them to kill off decent amounts of the doggos, as we've just seen 2 or 3 drop. And yeah, look at that HP drop on the Hounds of Armageddon. They're very close to dying. Okay, we're gonna back those guys off. Did summon another unit of Flesh Hounds from Karanak's summoning ability. And now it's just a matter of tying up every single unit that we can. The blob is still fighting as in the Bloodletter blob, but it has to more or less stay together now because we just don't have the cohesion necessary. And the thing is, while normally we might be able to separate them to some degree, here they're damaged enough that if we separate any one of these individual units, they'll probably get focused down and obliterated. So, can't really be having that. Out here, the Heralds of Khorne's Fury have destroyed a unit of Illyrian Reavers or Silverhelms, I don't remember, some kind of unit, while over in the background, the now fairly damaged Brutes of Ferocity and Skyla are still moving around catching any range units that they can, particularly the Lothran Sea Guard, as the doggos can't deal with it. Still a fair few amount of range units fighting, and though we are starting to move towards them with our Bloodletters now, as most of the melee units, the regular melee units, have been cut through. Balance power is at about 70, maybe 75% in our favor now. And fighting in the trees like this will probably work in our favor, as it's just a little bit more protection from the enemy range fire. Alright, just bouncing around between the enemy range units. Karanak has found the other enemy lord, and Karanak is a lord hunter after all, and, well, Skulltaker really doesn't need to bother with these weak archmages. Just leave Karanak to do it, who has just summoned a second set of Flesh Hounds. And these couple of units of archers are booking it on out of there. Skulltaker is tying up another unit of archers, granted with light armor, while our Blood Beasts and Skyla and one of our units of Blood Crushers continue to charge on through. Very, very micro-heavy battle, as once again it wasn't so much controlling the melee, but just controlling tons and tons of individual range units to make sure that as many of those range units as possible weren't firing. Our doggos are all heavily damaged and are just running around in the background, chasing enemy units as they can, because they can no longer participate in the fight as they're too damaged to do so. Really got to get that retrofit and that recovery ability going as fast as we can, because we're absolutely running Skulltaker's army ragged. On the bright side, Kukhar the Blood Hunter is probably watching this and is very much approving of the idea, as his own concept is sort of never stopping. But anyway, it looks like the battle is, at the end of the day, still ours, and though we suffered more damage and definitely had to sacrifice some of our doggos, and by the looks of it, even some of our blood beasts and such, still managed to pull it off. How long can we go on before it becomes too much for Skulltaker's damaged army? Alright, there we go. A close victory and a fairly tough fight, in my opinion. The fact that our army is severely damaged and doesn't have enough infantry to sort of spread out over a large area, it's certainly a problem against the high range unit counts of the High Elves, plus the fact that we have a limited effectiveness on our doggos means that we can't run down and tie up as many range units as we can. The Hounds of Armageddon had to flee the battlefield because they went, I think they lost like half their number and came close to being destroyed. Looks like Karanak's puppies got tons and tons of kills though at 110, very solid, and outdoing several of the units of Bloodletters, matching the Hellforged host, which is quite nice. Everybody else did roughly even, though it looks like in terms of sheer damage and kills, it's the Heralds of Khorne's Fury, the Blood Crushers, well, the elites basically, and Skyla as well. I feel like since we have to auto-resolve the following fight, we want to heal up very slightly. Although what is the loss of 1,500 skulls? Solid amount of skulls, and it's only 3% healing. Ah, screw it, take the skulls. Never have too many skulls. Now, we were able to... Ah, that didn't quite work, did it? I was hoping that Thinna would move out of range of Yvresse, but it looked like she is in range, which means if we auto-resolve her, she will not provide us the bonus movement range that we want. Hey, what is this? Amelie the Stash. Are you going to Shrine of Loek? That's a good way to get yourselves attacked by Skulltaker. We've got that earmarked for ourselves. Also, it's probably worth a decent amount of sack value. Tremendously rude. Alright, so... I guess we attack this. There's no way to stop the attack on Thina and have her survive, so when are we going to do it? Huh. You're going to back away. That doesn't really help us, though, does it? Unless we occupy the place. How would that work for us? Wait, alright, well, either way, we have to sack it first, so that doesn't change anything. So sack this, more to 118 losses? Oh, lord, I should not have done that. Well, that's not good. Sack the place, and then you should still have movement range. Oh! You could still reach this guy and then move to Shrine of Loek via the water. That's neat. I guess that's what we'll want to do, won't we? And that auto-resolve really screwed us. Or we could ignore this completely, go all the way to Caranthel, move to Angarial, then bounce from there to 100,000 sack value out of Lothern. Certainly worth more than the harbor, I'm willing to bet. It'll take a long time of this generating 400 gold per turn to reach 100,000 after all. Plus it'll fund so many other things. Although I'm not sure that we could take Lothern with if there's a full stack there with as much damage as we've taken so far. The doggos are basically no longer useful at this point. Oh, there's another army here. Well, that's interesting. Doom Reavers, you're gonna move here. It's also decent sack value at 20k. Go here. Yeah, obviously decisive defeat. Doom Reavers ain't handling that, but we can move one of these guys in, assuming that we besiege Toranlek rather, with the Terror Masters here. These guys may very well sally up, but just in case start building some stuff there. Would be a nice field battle if they do sally out. Alright, and I take it you can't move this turn? No, you can't move this turn. Alright. Ulthuan's in trouble, though. Kuchar, now you or Halfdeer have to... You know what, let's send Halfdeer this way in March stance to reinforce the Doom Reavers against Avethir. If we can get to the various named units of Exalted Bloodletters to Skulltaker, that'll allow him to reinforce. Almost tempted to ignore the the summons a Bloodhost after defeating a Lord, and try to move straight towards the Skulltaker's army is fully replenished, because that would be really helpful. Maybe I should have just... There's no way to refund an empowered skull, unfortunately, but whatever. We will deal. Doom Feasters and Skull Harvesters. Now, how do we want to deal with you? Which one of you has more motorcycles? Let's use Skull Harvesters. I guess we'll move with Kuchar then. Now, I guess you guys could assault the gate, move through it, and then go into the interior, though we should still probably take toward Ruinous. On the other hand, if the Terror Masters win here, they could go to toward Ruinous and possibly Unicorn Gate. I'm not sure that they have the units to be able to take the gates. Frankly, it's not, there isn't a crazy amount of value to them anyway. But anyway, Kuchar, you're gonna go for Griffin Gate. Like so. And we will give, I guess, you personally the Lichbone Pennant. Yeah, sure. Let's do that. Also notice that the Slaughter Guard have the flammable effect on them, which is nice because the Blood Reapers on their motorcycles should be able to do fire damage, which is going to work out nicely for us. Anyway, you are going to go right here. Will this count as an interception? It will not count as an interception. Okay, good. But these guys are going to attack the gate in a second. Last time we attacked the gate, we did have a desync, though, so it is what it is. Although, close victory and low casualties means we could auto-resolve it if we desire to do so. It would probably heavily damage the Skull Harvesters, but it would mean avoiding a desync, most likely. Anyway, Doom Feasters, you're going to move with Avethir here. And then this army... It's still fairly far. Okay, we'll deal with that in a second. There's a full stack here, and I think I want Avethir to fight. It's been a little bit of a while since he's gotten the chance to do so. Now, do we need to level you? Oh, reach rank 50. Mentor. Yes. What else do we have? Now, assuming that you can, we'll give you Khorne's Chosen, because he's going to have a sort of mixed Chaos Warrior Chosen and ranged army, rather than the sort of fully ranged army that we're going to do with the Malevolent Ranger. Probably no monsters. Ferocious Hunters wouldn't help. Skulltakers wouldn't help because you're going for mostly mortal units, I think. Alright, so that is all then fine. Now let's move towards Hunt and then into Deadly Onslaught. And that maxes you out. Unfortunately, it does mean avoiding Maim and Destroy and Cleave and Crush, but what can you do?
Blood is the source.
And you too. Do we need to reset you? Or reset you? Do we need to give you points? Sure. Blade Shield into Scarred Vet. And probably the same thing. Blade Shield, Blade Shield. There you go, bud. Alright. Probably could have gotten Infernal Champion. Anyway, let's fight Colin here. Pyrrhic Victory, eh? We'll see about that. Oh, it's actually a fairly decent stack. Go.
Hunter of souls, Lord Murder, Lord God.
Alrighty, here we go. A pretty solid enemy stack stands against us, and of course the garrison units. There was once a really nicely balanced army that the enemy has here, with plenty of cav, plenty of melee, range, artillery, very end an eagle or so. Very solid, plus a mage to act as support. What kind of mage are you, incidentally? You are Shadow Mage. Alright, so Enfeebling Foe and Melkoths is what you've got on offer, which, well, shouldn't be theoretically too threatening. Anyway, we've got reinforcements coming in. Of course, Avethir Nightbane, our oldest lord, will be leading the little Skulltakers, Bloodletters into the fray, at least until he gets his own army, which is very much on the approach. And he is level 50 now as well, though that doesn't really matter all that much when he's on the War Shrine, as obviously he's not looking to do damage that way. Anyway, with the rest of our units arriving, we're looking to hit the enemy army from multiple sides, and in fact, if we can, envelop them. Melee infantry in the form of the Bloodletters from here, melee infantry in the form of more Bloodletters from here, and then Blood Crushers and Fleshhounds and Exalted Heroes from here and here. Every direction is where we will attack them from. And let's see if it works out, which it damn well should. We will have the main sort of units of Bloodletters be on the approach and likely to take the most damage, which is appropriate as we want to preserve the HP of Skulltaker's retrofitted units. But it will be nice to get a little bit of XP on them because, well, Skulltaker will be losing out on said XP. Looks like at least enveloping the enemy army is going decently well as they are getting surrounded. Nice charge from those Blood Crushers, especially with the Fleshhounds moving in their way. Gonna knock out these white lines as fast as possible. Murderous Exhortations, the AoE damage ability, comes in from Avethir Nightbane, which once again just looks really cool. Certainly adds to the atmosphere of any battlefield when these guys pop these things off. I don't know how effective they are damage-wise, but it looks like they're getting some kills and some damage in there, so by the looks of it, decently well enough. What if we can reduce the cooldown in any way? Anyway, biggest blob of enemies is here where our Exalted Bloodletters are under Avethir Nightbane. Looks like the enemy artillery have been destroyed by our Fleshhounds. I gotta remember to take one of the Exalted Heroes off a chariot, because I didn't realize he was on said chariot. But all good for now. Blood Crushers and Fleshhounds continuing to work together to surround enemy units, though having a little bit of a tough time against the Stormwalkers, was it? Storm Riders. A regiment of renowned Lothar and Seaguard. And taking a little bit of damage against them. Looks like Avethir Nightbane will open a gate of Khorne and summon more Bloodletters onto the field, because he can never have too many Bloodletters. And by the looks of it, this battle is very quickly nearly ours. The enemy lord is dead, and it looks like the elves that were still in the fight want no more. Beautiful. Everyone shatters, and the battle is ours. Clearly, we did take some damage. Ooh, one of our heralds lost or a little over half of its HP. Lots of our flesh hounds got heavily damaged as well, because this army, unlike the battle with Skulltaker, didn't have nearly as many ranged units, and thus the flesh hounds had to contribute a little bit more to the melee fight, and even with the blood crushers taking the vast majority of the hits, their fragility meant that the flesh hounds still suffered damage. But all good. All good. Lovely, lovely fight. Always nice when we get to fight sort of from multiple directions like that. Granted, we didn't need the number of units, but still fun. Alright, there we go. Very, very nice. We were able to use the blood hosts to by and large preserve the units of Avethir, or, well, of Skulltaker, so that when we transfer them to him, that they aren't damaged. Got 20k out of the battle and another 20k out of sacking it as well, which is nice. And, ooh, wait, if we sack it, will we still be able to reach it, I wonder? Not entirely sure, but it's still 20k that we do kind of need, at least until we sack Lothern for the hundo. Damn, I missed. Now we can still occupy. Beautiful. Do we even want to occupy it? I mean, it isn't essentially a full province. Yeah, we can have a full province here, why not? We've been getting some skulls, and we, funnily enough, another Khorne mutant, and another blood collector. Tyrannox secured, yes, that's what we wanted, because it has that gold territory, and we want to get that growth up and running. Monuments of Rage. Faster we get the gold to tier 3, the better for us. We will also probably want to occupy Volzanville, possibly without even sacking it, or possibly raising it and then using the Cloak of Skulls, using the Unholy Manifestation to get it back up and running, so that so that we have that iron for ourselves. Rest of you can't move any. Okay, I was about to say can't move any further, but very slightly you can. Lovely. Alright, you two will... I feel like this battle isn't worth fighting. Granted, the units are there and they're rather weak, but... Last time the gates desynced, and I'm willing to bet that they'll desync this time as well. You know what, screw it. Kukar, go for the auto-resolve, close victory or not. We don't really care about the Blood Host that much. And... takes about half their HP. You could always raise another one if you need to. Fact is, we could raise one here. This might be a decent place to do it, because the other rewards are kind of lackluster compared to the other stuff. Why not? Yeah, stop moving. And, ooh, you got the Blood Host on this side as well. Very nice. And it's much stronger than the one we were using here. Another Potion of Toughness, which I won't say no to. And Kukar, I guess, March Stance close as he can over here. Do we want these? I forget. Recruitment Hero, bunch of stuff. It does make us money. We don't care about the gates because they don't really do anything. And I still think that's sort of something that the devs need to think about. Make the gates be useful. Well, wasn't it a thing back in the day where the gates were able to build military structures and allowed you to recruit a bunch of stuff? At least for the elves, or am I crazy? Was that in Total Warhammer 2? Did something happen to the gates where they completely changed, or maybe the AI was abusing that to continue pumping out armies, even though Wolf 1 was destroyed? But it kind of does make sense for these massive military installations to have some recruitment capabilities. And they're obviously even more useless to factions other than the Wood Elves. But anyway, I digress. Let's see what else we got this turn. So Skulltaker, back to you. I was trying to think about what to do here, and assuming we don't bother with Elisele, I kind of don't want these guys to take Shrine of Loek. We could hunt down Kulash and Quolsh and go after this still. Yeah, I guess what we'll do. Go after here. We should still have the turn or so left that we need to go to Lothern, in theory. 11 losses, stop it, auto-resolve. Why do you hate Skulltaker? 0 or army or punishment might not mean 0, so we're gonna do that. Sometimes it's a 0, but then it'll still do it very tiny replenish. Hey, we can reach Emily the Stasher and destroy her army just for fun.
petty offerings.
Noctilus doesn't want to be our vassal. I'm willing to bet that he does have a army, but
For Khorne's eternal
it's
glory.
tempting. And then we use that to land a Shrine of Loek, sack it, move this way, and I'm saving Gentleman Jenkins with a quick little auto-resolve to get Skulltaker moving again. He's going to be very heavily damaged by the time that we reach Lothern. Well, if these guys reach there at the same time, it'll all work out. We still got 2 turns until we can teleport again after all. It's only been 3 turns since we teleported to Ulthuan, so we got work to do still. Alright, Amelie the Stasher. Oh wow, these guys like us, damn.
Your kind of
But they won't vassalize, and if they won't vassalize, then they should be destroyed. The only annoying thing is that I'm willing to bet that they have a full stack, like right here, and then they'll immediately start sailing down here. This army won't be ready by then.
exalted bloodthirster.
Maybe if we speed up Skinnerath's army. Start globally recruiting Furies. It's not like they're expensive like that, so another 3 and then another 3 will very quickly fill up your army. You can get the Khorne's Bloody Fist in there as well. And are we starting on those Lamassu that we wanted in here? Oh yeah, we get our first one. Want at least 2 Lamassu, but better yet 4. Once again, the reason we want the Lamassu is for the Sorceress Miasma. Negates magical weapons within the effect area, making the Furies that much more tanky, because they really, really need the help. And them being demonic units, they have all that physical resistance that we can otherwise make use of. Just out of curiosity, what's the resistance is at? 20% physical and... okay, again, no missile. Everybody needs missile, nobody's getting it. Also, Skinnerath, before I forget you have Sustained by Slaughter. Oh, and you already have this maxed out. Oh, so Furies have the... huh. That's kind of interesting. So we do get the barriers for Khorne demonic units with an Exalted Bloodthirster leading. The weird thing is, this thing, Ferocious Hunters, speed 15 and charge bonus, as opposed to... I think it's 8 melee defense that the mortal units get?
Demon Prince.
Or the Furies. Yeah, Warp Fire. So they get instead 8 melee defense and still a little bit of speed. And missile resistance on speed and malice on Furies, as well as more speed and more melee attack, just out of curiosity. It does seem like the demonic lords are just vastly inferior in terms of the buff they get for all their units. Wait, I clicked on the wrong guy. Skinnerath. What do you get out of this? Okay, so we do still get 15 missile resistance for Bloodthirsters, but the Furies get nothing. So Furies get no missile resistance upgrades whatsoever in either of the trees. Huh. I wonder if it's worth it. So they lose out on 8 melee defense and 15% missile resistance to gain 500 barrier. Barrier is nice, don't get me wrong, but... not sure it's worth it. Well, either way, too late now. Let's go back to whatever it was we were doing. Amelie the Stasher, that's you. Who are you at war with? All the elves. Okay, so we're just gonna straight up declare war on you.
Khorne's
Either become our vassal or be destroyed. Declare war.
strikes. I live for this.
Alright, oh, I just realized we're out of time. Well, we're already moving. Alright, we'll fight one more fight, this one, and then I'll probably do the little tiny fight against the Shrine of Loek between the episodes. Anyway, yeah, decisive victory, medium casualties. We got some decent stuff in here. Gotta watch out for those bloated corpses. Go.
Why waste words? I see you itching to kill. I will not hold you back. Go! Spill blood!
Alright, here we go. Though there's something wrong with the sound in this particular battle. I'm not sure why. It's very strange. I actually tried recording this battle twice in the sense that I watched the replay and then I noticed that there was no sound, and I stopped it and then tried it again to watch the replay to do this commentary, and then still no sound. Skulltaker sounds fine, so the speech is there, but the unit effects are muted in this one particular fight. You can't hear the bats screeching, you can't hear anything. It's very strange. Well, we hear the explosion. Let's see. No. Huh. Okay, it's so weird with no sound. I have no idea, guys, why this particular battle, because the other battles work just fine in this episode with regards to their recording, but I guess we'll just have to suffer through it for one fight, and hopefully we don't have to deal with it in the future. Anyway, obviously we can't commit most of our army, because they're just basically useless at this point, having taken so much damage. And also the enemy army has 3 bloated corpses, which we can't really deal with. Oh, it's so weird with the silent battle. 3 bloated corpses that we have to deal with. And until they explode, we can't send anybody in. Alright, that's one. I believe the second one is going to go after Skyla and will in fact attack or damage the Sirens fairly heavily as well. Karanak is still attacking the enemy lord out here and has done a tiny bit of damage, but is also getting blocked by Fellbats. Otherwise, now it's just the fast movers, the Blood Reapers, the motorcycles, sort of riding around, bouncing between the enemy range units, similar to what we did with the enemy, with the High Elves in the previous battle. Now that the bloated corpses are gone, however, it does mean we can enter the fray with the rest of our army. Our skull cannon will start dropping the deck droppers out of the sky while the blood crushers charge on into those zombies. I love the charge animations with the of the crushers, or the juggernauts rather. That sort of headbutt they do when they charge on in. Lovely, considering they got that spiky armor on their heads as well. Anyway, looks like the battle is just about ours. The balance of power is at about 95% in our favor, and these guys were never going to stand a chance against our army because it's a relatively weak force. But I mean, it's just too tempting to jump on one of these little armies when they're in range of Skulltaker. After all, we're not really making peace with a lot of factions on the map. Anyway, soundless perhaps, but well, we were fighting undead. And who knows? Maybe they just fought silently. Alright, there we go. Obviously we couldn't really stand to commit most of our army, especially while the bloated corpses were there, but it worked out perfectly well, especially as the fragile undead are really vulnerable to those motorcycles. We're gonna go devour captives. Really need that extra healing, and Emily the Stasher's army is fully destroyed. Funnily enough, the dead rise probably would have been quite helpful to us. Anyway, you're gonna land at the Shrine of Loek now, and I'll do this between the episodes because obviously this isn't worth fighting, but I just want to see something. Alright, so the Lillian is standing at Lothern, plus the tier 5 garrison there. We may need another army there. You are not willing to peace out, though we could give you money for it. I just really don't want them moving out here, but I think we're going to chance it. I think maybe we can summon another cultist just to scout out, assuming that we actually have the capacity for cultists. Cultists. Bad hat. Well, let's raise you, or rename cultist. There we go, and then we'll send this cultist out to sea and then see if there's armies there. And if needed, we can teleport Skulltaker to them, though I'd really rather not waste a teleport. We can have the Skulltaker possibly set up a ritual thing at the Galleon's graveyard, and that way we could just pop in there as needed. We already have one available at the Waterfall Palace as well, so that we can hit up the Wood Elves when needed. We got one more turn until the Dark God's Choice is up and running with that cultist, the super cultist, and I believe we have another cult on the way in 5 turns here, so probably all the way at Altdorf for Brass Keeper or something. Lots more to do, but we'll have to do it next time as I'm calling it here, so stay tuned for more Skulltaker. Don't forget to leave those likes and comments below. All glory to the algorithm, and thanks for watching.